Welcome to the Former Fat Friend podcast. I'm Kasey.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Allie, and together we've lost over 370 pounds.
We all know what it's like to be the fat friend, and now we are sharing the ins and outs of our weight loss journeys.
Hey guys, happy podcast day. This week we're going to do something a little different, and we don't know what we're going to talk about yet. We have all compiled a list, some of us more than others.
I feel attacked.
I also feel attacked.
You have a printed out
As
list.
she literally hides her list behind her.
You can't print it out. You can't have a printer
Okay,
and then say you're not prepared. Just owning a printer means you're prepared.
So we've all picked topics to talk about that are things that we would normally text each other about that are like, oh wait, maybe we should save this and talk about it together here. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, I'm calling it our Chatting About series.
Love it.
And yeah, so all week I have been making a list of things that come up that have to do with like weight loss or weight loss surgery or the bariatric community or Instagram. I don't know, just whatever. And it's like things that I want to chat about. And I think I was told that other people were making a list.
Yeah.
Mine is just not print outable.
It's not printed.
Yeah.
So Kasey, what are we chatting about?
I've got a lot to choose from right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to start with this one.
Okay.
How do you feel about people putting trigger warnings on content on social media that has to do with weight and weight loss?
I see it as a challenge. I'm like,
Are you going to trigger me? Bring it on.
Like, is this really
for 2 years? Bring it on.
Is this really as bad as you think? Well, sometimes it's for like scars. And I'm like, is it really gnarly?
I was thinking more of the trigger warning around like, trigger warning, I'm going to tell you how much I weigh.
No.
Or trigger warning, I'm going to show you my food log for the day. Or that kind of stuff.
I guess I just think sometimes things are... That's what makes something feel like a big deal. When you call it out and label it like that, it becomes a big deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not what you say. It's
To me,
the way that it's presented.
Yeah. A trigger warning for me is like I see like miscarriages or like it like, you know, like
suicide or
infant loss and stuff like that. Like that's an acceptable thing for me. But that's something that I also have anxiety over. So like maybe it's just personal to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that makes sense to me because that's like, this is something that will only cause you anxiety that you cannot control.
Exactly.
So why would you want to consume that content? I think within the weight loss community though, Lisa, I like the way you said it, that like it makes something a big deal that doesn't necessarily need to be a big deal. The reality is that for most people who are on a weight loss journey, especially in those early phases, tracking yourself and weighing yourself is part of what you have to do. You just have to.
And if you don't want to know how much I weigh, just keep scrolling.
Also, I think if you are triggered by the weight of another person, that's something you should work on.
Yeah.
Because you
maybe ask yourself why that's so triggering.
Yeah, why does that bother? And I don't mean it in like a judgy way, but
No,
I
I
mean
know.
like that should be a cue for you to say like, hey, what work can I do if seeing that another person weighs a certain number bothers me so badly? Because in my head, I could look like my sister. We look very similar or whatever. I'm a little taller than her. There's no way. Like our weights vary so widely.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it doesn't make sense to me to compare weights to somebody else.
Yeah, because I think for you, weight it only matters for yourself, right? You don't have this idea of like, you would never look at a celebrity and say, oh, they weigh 140 pounds, so I need to weigh 140 pounds. And if someone else is doing that to you on social media, then that's something they should figure out for themselves.
Yeah, I think if something about someone's weight loss journey in general is triggering to you, it's a time for self-reflection on why is this triggering and where can I work on improving here? Because we already talked about this. Like, we don't need to be comparing ourselves to other people.
One of our followers on Former Fat Friend Pod on Instagram said she's working a lot on reframing.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, and it's not necessarily like a bad thing if you're doing that, but like trying to reframe into either like I said before, that's hope for me that maybe I'm built like this person. So seeing that they weigh X weight gives me hope that like, oh, maybe I could weigh that because I never thought I never imagined a world where that could be true. But also like reframing in the way that like, if it is like traumatic to you, no judgment, but like we should be working on that too.
Yeah. So Lisa, I know you've said that tracking can sometimes be triggering for you. Do you ever feel that when you see someone else's food log or macros that they post? that trigger you?
No, it really doesn't.
Okay.
I will say newly post-op, that was very different.
Mhm.
Newly post-op, I was scared. I had no knowledge. I had no lived experience on this journey. And I was very much like, well, what are they eating? And is what I'm eating
You did that for me in real
okay?
life.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. We've talked about that. So it definitely changes now, 17 months out. I have a good handle on my diet. And I work with somebody very closely who helps me make sure I'm fueling properly. So I'm like, I don't really care. And I know that I can eat a lot for a bariatric patient.
Yeah.
So I just, that doesn't bother me.
I think it's like you're a yoga girly, so you know this now, probably, but like take what serves you and leave the rest. Like I'll look at those and I'm like, honestly, the macros to me, I'm like, don't care.
No,
just show me if it looks good.
Yeah.
Great. And if it's like a higher protein option for something that looks good, I'm like, even better.
Yeah, if it's going to inspire me or be like, ooh, that's something I want to try, but I'm never looking at it or like feeling triggered by it.
Yeah. What about those like what I eat in a day videos?
I'm triggered by trying to make one of those because they're the most stressful thing in the world to try to make.
Easiest
I
thing to
filmed
make.
one once like 3 months ago and it's still sitting untouched.
But
raw footage.
But to see it, no, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I actually, when you post yours, I'm always like, man, that girl eats like a bird. That's her problem. I don't Yeah, I mean,
I feel like I eat so much.
I love how rare they are, and I love that you don't leave anything out.
It is, and it's also like I'm looking at it for 12 seconds on Instagram, so like it's who knows, but it's not real. Like you eat a normal amount. It wasn't like a judgment on my end. It was just like that's a 10-second clip, and the way my brain works is like, oh, that's like what 10 calories, like. So I got to 300 pounds. Yeah, like I just I didn't even. I'm like, oh, only one midday square. Congratulations, like that's really exciting for you. Like I'm at like 2 or 3. Who's counting? But. Yeah, no, to see those doesn't bother me at all. I find inspiration from that.
Yeah, I think like I don't find myself getting triggered really by anything like that. And I like to know those things because I'm just nosy. So like when someone tells me how much they weigh, I'm like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
It's cool to see like body composition wise what people weigh.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
And I think too, like if there's something that I see on the gram that doesn't serve me or doesn't interest me. You guys, is that not a thing that we're saying?
No, I love it.
I don't know.
I'm just not
I like
cool.
it.
You know,
I was
I'm
into
not
it.
cool.
If I see it, like I'll stop. If it either is something that I know is going to, I don't know, cause an uncomfortable reaction, I'll just be like, no.
Keep going.
I just think sometimes if someone is using a trigger warning in that sense, they're just like wanting their thing to be more exciting than it is, maybe.
Ouch.
Oh,
there we go.
Shots
fired. There we go.
Oh no. Maybe not,
I have to imagine.
I take it back.
I don't take it back. That's fine. I have to imagine that I mean, I have to, because otherwise I can't sustain this life. But like, I have to imagine that people really do have the best interest of others at heart, hopefully. And they're like, hey, this would have bothered me where I was.
Yeah, you're
so
assuming positive intent, and I struggle with that.
Me too, but I'm really trying hard here. I'm overextending. You guys will see I'm going to pull a muscle in a second for doing this.
I don't know. I think obviously like I think a little bit more about the things that I share because I know it goes to a broader audience. So I think there's
it. You're famous.
Right. A broader audience. She's like, I'm popular or not. Hit the road, Jack.
Anyway, I think a little bit more about what I share because I don't want to ever share anything that like
I think you have a responsibility to.
Yeah. But I guess then I think about it like I sometimes wonder if I shouldn't share my weight because it's on the lower end of bariatric patients. And if I were 40 pounds heavier, would I feel much more comfortable just being like, I'm just going to tell you my weight and not worry what you think?
I actually think that's a real thing because, and I think correct. I don't want to sit here and put words in your mouth. What I'm imagining is your hesitation is because you are maybe what you would call the exception.
Yes.
In that it is not guaranteed that you're going to lose all of your excess weight. It's very uncommon that you're going to lose all of your excess weight. And you did. And I hate that for you, that you feel like you don't get to shout that from the rooftops.
But here's my thing though. You don't say, here's how you can be successful like me. That's where there's an issue to me.
But you don't want people to feel like if they don't have the same level of quote unquote success that you had, that they are then less than or they're not as successful because they're expecting it.
Or that it's not worthwhile to do because it's life changing.
But they don't know what the result is going to be before they do it.
And it's not your responsibility to manage
I
those
agree.
You're right. I think
people.
I think if you say, this is how I eat every day, and I don't do X, Y, and Z. And if you want to be successful, you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. Then, hey, there's a problem because you're giving people something to hold on to that is flimsy. If you are just showing up the way you are and you're not guaranteeing people results from doing the things that you're doing, you're fine.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I think for me, like my Instagram page started entirely for myself. And so for me, like posting my weight and then my, month 1 weight and then the next week the weight and like how much that was like exciting for me because that was something I didn't get to like share with people in real life. And I had this whole community of people cheering me on and I liked doing that. So I did it for me. It never occurred to me back then to like put a trigger warning on my weigh-in posts.
No.
And now I think about that mostly because I see other people do it. And then I'm like, oh, should I be...
If you start putting a trigger warning on your weight post, I'm unfollowing you.
Yeah, I have an alarm set up for when you post.
Deal.
I'm going to take it off. So for me, I'm like just such a weirdo. You guys know this. That like when I see a trigger warning and it's like loose skin removal and it's like skin sitting on a table, I'm like I want more of this content. Like give me all of this.
Okay, that's what I mean when I say it's a challenge. I'm like, is it triggering?
What I don't want is I don't
me.
want boobs showing up on my news feed
correct
without the cover because I'm like, I wasn't ready for that.
Oh yeah, no, I don't care about that either. Show me all of it. I don't care.
See, no, but you guys were saying like, ooh, when I was like, I think you're making it more interesting. I just think if you were to add the trigger warning, that's what makes you look like it.
You're
like
right.
Trigger warning, I'm really skinny.
Yeah. Trigger warning, I'm adorable.
Like that makes you the a-hole. Not sharing your weight.
You're right.
Yeah, like that's the difference.
Okay, I think we've beaten this topic to a pulp.
Okay.
Who's got something else?
You should go because mine are way more serious than this.
I was just going to talk about myself.
Yeah, me too.
Story, which seems like pretty on brand for
that
me.
tracks.
Yeah. I got cryotherapy, which I've been doing as part of race training because Kasey, your boyfriend Bill, told me to try it. And
shout out, Bill.
So I've been doing that.
Thanks for listening, Bill.
I've been going twice a week. You're like in this chamber. They give you a robe and they give you these like socks and things and these like clogs that you have to wear. You go into the chamber and everything is covered from the neck down. And then you take off the robe and hand it over the top. And then they stand ground level. It's insanely cold. And it's 3 minutes and they stand there with you and they talk to you the whole time, which I think is to distract you and like make the time go by faster. And every time I've gone, it's been a different person and the woman is talking to me and I'm naked and I'm shivering and it's, kind of awkward. And I'm telling her that I'm doing cryotherapy because I'm running a 10-mile race and she's interested. And she says, like, is there anything that you can eat to help your performance? She was like, not pasta. And I was like, yeah, actually, that's exactly what my dietitian suggested for my night before race was something like pasta. No, tell me it's at least like whole grain, brown. And I was like, well, no, it just like, she just was like.
Why is she so worried?
So worried, like mortified for me, like, horrified, like literally like
enemy.
Like head shaking, like, no, tell me not. Oh, no, like,
oh my God.
And I'm like, baby.
Have you ever had a reaction to a dish
not
like that?
Pasta. And I was like, but the best part, I was like, well, I'm gluten free, so it's never just like regular enriched pasta. And she was like, oh, thank God. She was so relieved for me. And it's just one of those funny things. Like I have knowledge that she doesn't have, right? There's just a level of ignorance. And I don't mean that in a derogatory, negative thing, but it's just like, you don't know what you don't know. And she clearly doesn't have education on how important carbs are for running.
Yeah.
So I was able to just like laugh. We're all able to sit here and laugh it off but she was genuinely horrified for me.
I would have been like, yeah, no pasta. I would have been like, you're right. Yep, 100%. You won't catch me having pasta. See you later, lady.
Yeah, no,
and I'd go to an Italian sensation or something after that.
Italian sensation.
Or you can eat at Olive Garden.
Yeah, that's a hometown shout out, Italian sensation.
I was at a conference recently and there was a woman sitting, it was like you eat lunch with random people kind of situation. And she happened to sit at my table and she made a comment and she was a normal weight person, but she made a comment about how she was disappointed that the only thing she could get was the salad and the chicken because everything else was so high in carbs. And here I am, 2-year post-bariatric patient, and I look down at my own plate, and I'm like, I got all the carbs and I got the cookie.
You're like, yeah. Oh, no, yeah, that stings.
Yeah, it's like, ooh.
It's called balance. Look it up.
But
no, what a blessing to have that, though.
Yeah, I do think that like one of the best things that's come out of this surgery for me it's that freedom to live life and to not feel like I have to constantly be like, oh, I can only eat the lettuce and the plain disgusting chicken or I'm going to gain weight. Like
chicken breast.
No, I don't eat chocolate chip cookies every day, although the last 2 podcasts I have
it's a slippery slope.
Wait, though I do want to say for a second, because I think it's important to acknowledge and recognize that all 3 of us have reached a level of maintenance. And
True, but I also still don't really touch pasta.
Well, I was gonna say, like, that was me. I was definitely, there was a time in my journey where I was just eating the chicken, the salad, and sometimes that's still the case. I do try to incorporate a carb into every meal.
I get enough carbs, but I don't really make it a point.
No, I'm sure you do. Yeah. And I'm not telling you to do anything differently. There are definitely times, especially early around post-op, where like that's all that fit was chicken and salad. So I just want to make sure people don't think we're like judging them.
Yeah. My issue with the pasta reaction is not the pasta. I don't really eat pasta. I don't miss it. I don't really care for it. I eat Kaizen because I like it.
I'm the same.
But I don't care for pasta. Rice, same thing. We got Thai tonight. I don't need it.
It's not a moral judgment against pasta. I just don't like it enough to make room for it in my diet.
Well, and I also can't imagine any world where I'm like reacting to a dish that someone was talking about eating. Like, what? Like, tell me it's not the pasta. Like,
well, you'd think
why?
It was like cow eyeballs or something.
Or like cyanide. Like,
anyway, that was one of my 2 things I wrote down.
Oh my gosh. Okay, mine is like really sad actually, so I don't even know if we should do it.
This is Allie's therapy for the week.
Yeah, no. And thanks for not charging me.
Let's go. You're welcome.
Okay, so this has happened twice this week where my kids will like nuzzle on me a little bit. And right now I'm wearing a bra, so it looks as if there's something there, but you guys both well know there's nothing there. And one of my kids was like kind of sick, and she was sitting on my lap, and she laid her head on my chest. And I had this moment of like total disappointment in myself. I'm going to cry because she kept moving like to the point where I realized she was like not getting comfortable because there's nothing soft there anymore. And then I also read to them every night before bed, and I had them lay on my arm, and then I like lay next to them. And it's funny sometimes, but in the moment it hurts where like one of them will lay on my arm, and then the muscle, it's not like fat where it like absorbs and like cushions you in a soft, like nice way. It just like rolls out of the way, you know? And so like my oldest was laying on my arm, and she kept like moving around, and she was like, this is not comfy. Can you move your arm? And I was like, yeah. And I realized like, I feel great about where I am. And these moments are like super fleeting where I'm so disappointed in myself in some ways. Like, or I don't know. I guess it feels like disappointment where like I did all these things with them in mind. And then I worry about like, I'm not a soft place for them anymore. And as like a mom, it just like kills me in the moment. And then I like reason and I know all of the things that you guys would tell me, but it still feels like awful. And one of my kids was sick last week actually. And my mom was holding her and she was like snuggled up on my mom. And I came back into the room. My mom wanted to leave, but I'm like, oh, you want mommy to hold you now? And she's like, no, Zuzu's soft. And so it's like these things where I'm like, I have like pectoral muscles. I don't have like a body for you to like use, I guess, which sounds so crazy. But as a mom, that's like what your body is for.
I don't think it sounds crazy at all.
No, it doesn't sound crazy. And I think maybe it's also just like, it's different for them, right? If you had always been this body, they would find a way to
they wouldn't realize. They wouldn't have anything else to compare it to. So they wouldn't associate this body as being less soft because they wouldn't know the body that had the extra 150 pounds of fat that it no longer
and when I like am
it.
logicking with myself,
of course,
I know this. Like I know, and immediately, like it's when I say fleeting, like this is the longest I've thought about it all week, but like it hit me hard, both like the couple times that it happened this week. It hit me so hard that I was like, man, there aren't times right now where I necessarily feel bad about my body or like feel bad about my decision. And I still don't, I guess, on the whole, but like there have been very few times where I feel like really down or bad about something. And those are the times that I do, like when I feel like I can't provide anymore what I wanted to for my kids.
I don't want to say I get that because I'm not a mom and I haven't had that experience. I can imagine what a sucker punch that must feel like. And the thing that I thought of after you shared that is that, number one, soft place to land is subjective, in the way that, because what I think about is when your kids are older and they're thinking about their relationship with you, soft place to land to them isn't going to be how comfortable your arm was to lay on. It's going to be that they knew they could come to you with anything and that you would be there for them, and that being that safe space and that soft place for them, the physical is going to mean nothing. And it's going to be everything about the way that you parent them and the way that you raise them. And that isn't changing.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, Kasey, again, when I'm explaining myself out of this, I see plenty of mothers who are fantastic mothers who are skinny people, to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
So I know that that's silly, but I can't help myself from kind of thinking it when it happens in the moment.
And I get that it's it probably feels like you made this choice that then changed something for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Guilt.
But ultimately, and I know you know this, you being around for as long as possible for them, that's the best gift that you could give them. And that's what you've done.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway. You guys talk about trigger warnings and I'm over here trigger warning. I think my kids hate me.
That was heavy, but I think very real. And I'm sure you're not the only one who's had that feeling.
I appreciate you guys letting me air my sadness here. And I know all of the things that you told me are true. And I hope that anybody else that is feeling this way can listen in and be a part of this conversation too, because I think it applies to so many different parts of our lives. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm done talking about my feelings, but I cried on camera, so I need to get it together.
All right. Well, on that note, Kasey, what else you got there on your list?
This one, I don't know if this is going to go deep or be less deep, but what do you feel about the bariatric community feeling so strongly about needing to say that bariatric surgery is not the easy way out?
Oh my God. Let me write a dissertation. I've psychoanalyzed everyone in the bariatric community at this point on this topic.
Okay.
Have I not told you this before?
I don't think so.
I feel like as fat people, we're pariahs of society that are beaten down so badly. And we are so conditioned to believe that we're fat, lazy, ugly, stupid, whatever else is associated with fat, that when we find a way to the other side, we rally so hard against everyone who has told us that we are the worst or whatever it is, that we lose all control over the people we were pre-surgery. It's totally out of our hands. We are genetically predisposed only to this, and we couldn't have done anything differently. So we must convince everyone that this is very, very hard, because if not, we don't deserve it.
Okay, but that to me, that I get what you're saying, and I totally agree. I think that is what's happening, but it doesn't make sense to me, because if you're saying obesity is a disease, it's not a lack of willpower, it's not laziness.
Oh, I agree.
If it wasn't then, why is it now all of a sudden you worked so hard, so now you lost weight? Aren't you just essentially saying, I didn't work hard enough before? It just, that argument fails to me.
Well, we've talked about this. You're doing different work.
It's just hard in my opinion, it's hard in a very different way. And I think that for me, the difference is that bariatric surgery has a stigma attached. So it's not saying I didn't work hard before. It's saying, hey, I know you think I took the easy way out, and I need you to know that I didn't. This is not because I worry. This happened to me the other day. Somebody asked me oh my gosh, what did you do? And bariatric surgery was the last thing on my list. I said, I got a dietitian, I got a personal trainer, I overhauled my life, and I had gastric sleeve surgery, because I was scared that if I started with gastric sleeve surgery, they would not hear anything else I said after that. They'd be like, oh, it was the surgery.
That's a very intentional answer. I would never have the wherewithal to come up with, but I like it.
Because I think that stigma is real, and I feel like I'm far enough post out that I wish I didn't feel that way anymore. And I do still believe, I worry about other people's judgments about my decision, and I worry what they're thinking, and I wish I didn't. And I do worry that people think, oh, you had weight loss surgery, you cheated, you took the easy way out. And it is important. I don't know why it's so important, but it's important for me that you know that that's not true.
But weren't you trying before you lost weight. It
Always.
just wasn't working.
Right.
Like before surgery, it just,
Right.
bariatric surgery didn't change how hard you were working. It's not that it's not like you had gastric sleeve surgery and then suddenly you became a whole new person and you started putting in so much work that you've never put in before. It's just that work was effective now.
It was paying off.
Right.
So
Surgery was the missing piece.
But that's what doesn't make sense to me is like, why do we feel this need to tell people like, it's not the easy way out. It's not the easy way out because
other people don't realize that. Other people don't have the knowledge and I don't know what the word I'm looking. They're ignorant. Yeah, they just don't know. They don't know that. They don't know that information. I don't want to give that spiel every time. I just want to say it was hard.
So they don't know that you were working hard before because they couldn't see it physically in the outcome of your body.
That or I don't think people believe it. I think no matter what you tell them, there is this belief of like, well, you're just not working hard enough. If you're saying you're doing all of those things,
you're not eating less enough.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not really in a calorie deficit. You're not really burning that much.
Or there must be other things you're doing that you're not telling me about. Like, oh, but how was your snacking? How was your this? Or like, oh, you did the wrong kind of exercise. Like for other people, I feel like there has to be a justification of why it didn't work. It couldn't possibly be because I have obesity and it's a disease that needed help. Yeah. It had to be some other reason. Also, bariatric surgery was really hard for me. Not that it was hard to lose weight. It was hard to transform and keep up with that mentally. It was a totally different type of hard and figuring out who I am without the weight. My therapist always refers to like when there are things, she calls it like my mask, that there were these other things I was doing. Like I had to be funnier. I had to be this. I had to be this to compensate for my weight. And it's like, well, who am I without the weight? What do I not have to compensate for? Or who am I truly at my core when I don't feel like I have anything to compensate for? That was all really hard for me. Losing weight wasn't hard. The weight came off. I did the things I was supposed to do and they worked. It was all of the underlying layers that came with it. Because, losing weight shouldn't be so hard.
Right.
And that's important for people to know because I'm such a hard worker and I'm such a perfectionist. I have a problem with people thinking I cheated or I took a shortcut or I took the easy way out. So it's important for me to be like, no, I don't think you understand. I worked really, 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 really hard. Maybe not physically as much. But even like, I did work hard physically too. How many people work out as like
you have? I don't think that takes anything away from your story.
Really, I think ultimately it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter what Joe Schmo thinks about. Like I know all the hard work that I did.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't have to explain it so much.
For me, it feels like the trigger warning, like what you said earlier, like having to qualify what you did as not easy in some ways validates people who think it's easy. I just don't approach that at all. I don't think it's anyone else's business how hard I worked before. Unless you're asking me, hey, could this work for me? And I can tell you that, like this was the first thing. I've had conversations with people in my family. This is much easier for me than anything else I've ever tried. And again, you guys know I'm like a risk reward person. I finally have the reward. Like I had worked for 10 plus years to have a reward similar and I couldn't get there. And I think anyway, I just, when we give voice to the people who say it's the easy way out, I'm like, you have no input actually. I don't care.
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, it feels like in some ways the easiest thing I've ever done to lose weight because I spent my entire adult life trying really, really, really hard and nothing worked. And then it was finally working. But I guess I always wonder, like, why do we feel like it has to be hard? Why do we need everyone to think that we worked really, really hard or need them to know what we've done? Like, why does it have to be that hard? And I was having this conversation with my boyfriend because he does not eat a lot. Actually, he eats such small portions that when we first started dating, before he knew that I had bariatric surgery, in my head, I was like, is he also a bariatric patient? I was like, sometimes our portion sizes would be relatively similar. And we were talking about it, and he was saying how, he ran in college and he was, he used to eat a lot more when he was running in college. And then when he stopped running, he just noticed that he got full a lot faster. And so he just like naturally adjusted his eating.
Gift,
and
right?
I was like, I think that's what you don't understand is like that never happened for me. Like that feeling of being like, oh, I just don't need as much food. that didn't happen. And for him, that wasn't difficult. He didn't work hard to adjust his eating after college to not balloon up into, you know, a morbidly obese person.
Right.
It just happened. And I think that's what bariatric surgery has done for me, is it's made me feel like, I always say normal, but it's made me feel normal. I don't have to work that hard. I didn't have to work that hard to lose weight. I don't have to work that hard to maintain it. It's not that I'm not doing the things. I am making good decisions most of the time in terms of food. I am, you know, I want healthy foods because it makes me feel good and that's what I choose to eat. But it's not like, it doesn't feel hard to do it. And I think that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. And that's wonderful. And that is not everybody's experience.
Yeah. So one of the things I wrote down on a Can We Chat About, or what are you calling it?
Chatting about.
Chatting about.
Can we chat about?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the fact that I compulsively tell people that I had bariatric surgery with no disclaimers at all? I went to a dermatologist appointment this week and talked about my skin, and it had nothing to do with weight loss. Like, I talked to the person at the beginning and whatever, and then I went to see the actual NP that I was seeing, and I immediately was like, we were not at all discussing this. And I was like, yeah, I had bariatric surgery. I lost 150 pounds in a year. And then, so it's all like this now. Like, what? Why did I feel the need to tell her that? It had no relevance. And I had one other time where I was on the National Mall getting ready to do an event for work. And I was on a golf cart with like 6 people. Two of the women I had worked with over email and phone, but never met in person. And I was like, I don't think I can get on that golf cart because like, it's not going to run if I sit down on it. And they were like, oh, Allie, get up here. You're so thin. It won't matter. It won't affect anything. And I was like, I had bariatric surgery a year ago. And I mean, like, it was so embarrassing. And I was with my old boss, who's one of my best friends now. And I just like made eye contact with him. And then I felt like I should tell these women this. Like,
you had word vomit.
Yeah. Like, why do we feel the need to like say like, it's okay, I'm one of you, or like, oh, it's okay, I used to be fat. Like,
I don't tell anyone, so I have a very different
I don't
reaction.
say it outwardly, but I have inner thoughts. When I see an overweight person now,
Yeah.
I feel compelled to be like, no,
I'm one of you.
too. Yeah, I'm one of you. I like...
It was, these women actually, by the way, were not fat. It wasn't like an I'm one of you. It was just like, not really skinny. Like, what? Like,
this is new for me.
Yeah, like what? It was new and it shocked me. And I looked at this guy who was one of my good friends who watched me lose 150 pounds. And it was like, we both knew. And then I felt like I was lying if I didn't tell them. And like, I'm a fake and a
like
phony.
The two of you were in on something.
Yeah.
That no one else
and like,
knew
he
about.
probably would have never said a word. But to me, it was like, oh, I got to come clean. Why?
That is really funny. I don't know. I don't have that feeling. I am so private about it. I do often find myself thinking like when I'm out running, I will be like, I'll think like, I bet I look stupid right now. And then I'll think, no one's looking at you thinking you look stupid. They're thinking like, oh, there's that bigger girl trying her best.
Good for her. That's what Corey and I always say. Good for her.
And then I think like, no, they're not thinking that anymore. So now they're just thinking I look stupid.
I'm always just like, wish I knew.
No one cares.
But no one cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
I know.
No one cares but us. But I think about that all constantly. I'm like, what do I look? I think I've said this a bunch just in my life. Like, what do I look like to the outside world?
I know.
I wish I could see.
Yeah.
I wish I knew how other people, like, how am I perceived objectively? Because I don't know how to perceive myself objectively.
Yeah. I do sometimes when I like meet people who did not know me before I lost weight, there is something kind of nice about them not knowing that I had bariatric surgery, because then I think like, oh, this is like the only version of me that they've ever known. They don't have any other like...
Yeah, I don't have to explain anything.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I hear people talk about with like when you've been successful at bariatric surgery, like successful, you don't hear about it. And I think about my mom like really frequently because she's obviously like way down the road post-op, and like new people, like including her husband, never knew her overweight. And so like having bariatric surgery is not a thing she talks about anymore, not because she's trying to hide it, but it's just not relevant anymore in her conversations. So you hear about like your friend's uncle that gained all their weight back, but you never hear about the people who are successful because like
they just don't
it's not part of their lives anymore. Yeah, it's just normal.
It's like people who only write bad reviews for restaurants, right? They don't take the time when the service is good.
It's a special place in hell for those people.
You know what I mean? No, that's real. That's real though. It's the people that get all up in arms that have negative things to say, but when they have a positive experience, they don't take the time to sit down and write about it.
Yeah.
I think it's what you were talking about, Allie, though, like needing to like come clean. I think to me that just says that like your identity hasn't shifted yet, that you still identify with like the bigger version of yourself.
Yeah.
So you feel like you need other people to know, like, oh, this is actually who I
want them
am.
to know I'm like non-threatening, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Kasey, what else is on that list?
I wrote down goal weights. And I don't know that I had like a lot of thought around this, but I get asked all the time, what was your goal weight? Or someone will say to me, I'm 10 pounds from my goal weight. What should I do? Or they'll say, my surgeon said, this is my goal weight. And I always find that to be like a funny concept, this idea that like we have this like one specific number in our head of like.
Didn't you though?
No, not really.
You never had a goal weight?
I didn't either.
I just wanted
yes,
to.
you did.
I didn't. I said it like a pipe dream. Maybe I could get to 160, but it was never like a fixation for me.
No,
I didn't say fixation, but that sounds like a goal to me.
So my surgeon
A dream.
said he would expect me to get down to around 140 or 145 pounds. And when I heard that, I was like, impossible. Like that's never going to happen. So then in my head, I said, if I can get below 160, I'll be happy because that would put me in a normal BMI. So anything below 160, I will feel like I've achieved my goal. But I didn't have like a number in my head of like, I need to be this weight or I'm not going to be happy.
I think if anything, I was like 200 or under is my... Because really, like, remember, 210 would have been success for me.
Right.
I'm just really hard on myself, I guess. My goal was always 150. And the reason it was 150 is because 150 is the most I could weigh and have a normal BMI.
Yeah.
If I weighed 150.1, I was considered overweight. If I weighed 150 or less, I was considered healthy. So 150 was always the ultimate goal, but I had a million
Did your surgeon give you one?
benchmarkers. My surgeon never gave me a goal.
Okay.
Did she give you like an indication of how much she thought you would lose?
No, we never talked about that at all. And even after, I remember at my 1 year post-op, I said, do you have any further goals for me? Like at this point, like, is there anything else you're expecting of me or hoping for me? And she was like, no, not at all. You know, there weren't. But I had all these benchmarker goals. I had like, I want to get to 215 because that's how much I weighed at my sister's wedding and I had lost weight for the wedding. I want to get back into Wonderland. I want to get to 183 because 183 is the lowest number I've ever seen on the scale. And I want to get to 150. You know what I mean? Like
That's interesting. Every time I've ever tried to lose weight before, I would have those goals and I would like set rewards for myself. Like when I get to this weight, I will get a massage. When I get to the next weight, I'll get a new pair of shoes. And I had all these things and I thought about doing that after bariatric surgery. And honestly, I think it just happened so fast that I didn't do any of those things. It was just kind of like, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, what I'm doing next. And also this weight is falling off. I was a bit, I think like you, Allie, where like first 6 months, it just dropped off so fast that I couldn't even keep up. So I always have been a person that likes goals like that, but this time around it just didn't happen.
Yeah, see, I don't think I am. And I also think, Lisa, you say you're hard on yourself, and I think you are. But also, it just occurred to me that you also have like a very project brain. Like you like to be done with a task, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I listened to another podcast called A Slob Comes Clean that has nothing to do with weight loss, but is about people like me who don't have normal brains and also like don't like cleaning and organizing and like how do you keep your life together and your house together to like a place where you can manage it, because I'm so bad at that generally. And you guys have seen my house. This is an improvement over where I was like 2 years ago. But she says like people like us, like we like a project to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And like if it doesn't, we don't like doing it. So I have tried really hard in the scope of like my house to think about, okay, if I can't do all of the laundry today, if I do one load, I'm better off than I would have been if I didn't do it. And so like to me, that like removes the project brain a little bit. And so I think it was the same approach for this. It was like, yeah, 160 was like always in my head, like that'd be cool. But like, who knows if I can get there, because I've never even been able to get under 200 as an adult. So like, yeah, pipe dream, that'd be awesome. But really my goal was to just like do this and see where I could get.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of it is being hard on yourself and some of it is just like by nature, you like to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Like it seems like.
Well, I think I set an idea of what the end is in my mind. And then if I don't hit that end, then I haven't succeeded.
Right.
But it's my own expectation. And it's interesting because, Allie, you've definitely talked about, I don't know if on the podcast, but just in life, about not feeling like you're a good goal setter.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
But I think what you just described makes you such a better goal setter than me, because you act and move with grace and realism, and you.
Yeah, but I'm just floating through. There's no focus.
But you're
Hoping for the
doing
best.
it. You're doing it. Whereas I'm like, no, I have to do this, and if I don't do this, we talked about this already. It was like, if I didn't like lose all the weight that I wanted to lose, I would not have considered this to be a complete success.
Right.
Would I have made progress? Yes. Would I have succeeded and met my goal? No.
Right. I guess I always looked at it as like, I'll be better off
No matter
compared
what.
to where I was. I'm going to be a better place.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's how I was too. Like
so my point is that's a healthier mindset, and that's
I also don't think I was there right away either. I mean, part of it is like kind of depressing in that I had just given up on reaching any goal weight. Like,
yeah.
it wasn't like, it was sort of a protection for myself, because like if I don't set this goal, then I don't fail.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I had failed so many times that I'm like, you know what, I'm done with that. And I'm just going to like do what I can, see how it goes, basically. But
yeah.
it wasn't noble.
It's just, no, it's so interesting because I also was like, I have done everything I can. And so help me God, there is nothing else. So like this better effing work
Yeah.
because I'm out of options.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's literally a mindset thing. It's wild it's just wild to me.
Okay, so Lisa, you got to your goal. You're there.
Yeah.
And you just said earlier tonight
Uh-oh.
you
Put me
want
on
to
blast.
Right.
you want to lose 5 more pounds.
What a B word.
A blonde. What did you call me? A blonde B word.
Bomb ass friend.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a blonde bomb ass friend.
She just dropped a bomb is what she did, calling me out on
but
the
I'm
pod.
wondering because
Release, Raven.
No, this is a conversation I have with my therapist because she's like, you can't just keep shifting the goal. You can't just keep moving
you're
it.
moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
But why?
Because I didn't actually think this was possible. So now that it's a
Yeah.
reality, now I'm like, well, wait. If I can do that, what else can I do? That's what it is. I'm like, oh, let me see.
It's exciting.
So I didn't actually think I'd ever get to 150.
That's why I asked earlier,
Yeah.
do you want to lose weight just to see if you can? Like, because now you're like, oh, I have the tools. Like, let's see.
Now
I
I'm
don't know.
curious, like
Yeah.
where if I try, like, because
Focus.
no, I'm not actively trying to lose weight right now. I'm
Mhm.
just living. I'm working out. I'm being active. I'm eating a balanced lifestyle. I eat chocolate every day. I think like, and it's like, well, if I did actively try to lose weight now at this, what would that look like? How would that go? Is that within the realm?
I've had the same thought.
Yeah. So I think it's just like with running. I never thought I could run a mile.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, well, wait, I can run a mile. Can I run a 5K? Oh, I can. Can I run a 5 mile? Can I run a 10 mile? So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I did actually. Okay, well, 150 is the absolute most I can weigh and be classified as healthy, which gives me no wiggle room. So it's like, well, okay, I never actually thought that was possible, but really, ideally, I'd like to be in the middle of that healthy range so that I do have wiggle room. And I'm not saying that's good or bad or right or wrong. It's just the way my brain works.
Yeah, I get it.
It's
I
exciting
think
to try.
before I had plastic surgery, I had the same thought of like, let me push this a little bit more and just see like just how much I can do, just so I'm in like the best possible shape that I can be in before I go in for plastics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so I have no regrets.
Yeah, but I also didn't have, the weight that I'm at now was never a weight in my mind of like, when I get here, I'll be happy and then I'll stop. It just sort of is like where things ended up settling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know that like I think it would be really hard for me to lose weight right now. And it's also pretty hard for me to gain weight right now. My body is pretty well stuck at the weight that it's at. So to try to like push that for some, I don't know, arbitrary number just seems silly.
You're also, I appreciate that. And you're saying that sitting very healthily in the center
You're right.
of that BMI
You're
range.
right. You're right.
And listen, I consider myself a success. I have things I'm working on every day. I believe it's like, a process. If I don't end up losing another 5 or so more pounds, I will not feel like a failure.
That's
I really
awesome.
won't. I'm just like, I wonder, is it like, if I end up at 150 forever, like that's effing awesome.
It is.
Like
And
that's
I'm also,
incredible.
I'm really proud of you for what just came out of your mouth.
Yeah.
I've only heard you say things. This is not a dig, by the way,
I
but
know.
I've only heard you say things like, if I don't do X, then I would consider myself a failure.
Yeah.
And you like, we were talking about the bell curve of like, how rapidly are you losing weight? And you're like, if I wasn't on that top 10%, I would feel like a failure.
Yeah. And you didn't feel the way your dietitian said you would feel at 3 months. And you felt like you were doing
This is fantastic.
wrong.
I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. Thanks.
I'm so emotional.
No, I think it's you.
Yeah, what's up with you
saying
tonight?
like,
I don't know. Can I get off this?
I'm adopting that mindset of yours, Allie, of like, let's just, because at this point, I did all the things I set out to do.
Yeah.
I have surpassed, never thought I'd be running a 5K, let alone 5 mile, 10, you know what I mean? Like I've already exceeded my wildest dreams. So I'm just curious now. It's like, well, let's,
And you
let
also,
me just see.
That's why
You
the
also
exciting
know,
stuff happens.
like your body likes being at 150.
I've maintained this weight since November.
It's incredible.
So,
I mean, that is a clearly to me, that's your body has decided this is a set point. Can you shift it down? Maybe. And I think the cool thing is like, you can try this. If you can lose weight and maintain it just as easily, 5 or 10 pounds lower than you are now, amazing. If you do it and you find your body wants to go right back up to 150, also amazing.
Yeah, not,
Great.
not a
Like,
slippery
okay,
slope
I
anymore.
gathered the data I needed and now I know, and I'll let it lie.
Got the t-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this format? Are we going to do this again?
I loved this.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm
I had a good
emotional,
time.
but we're going to wrap that up. I'm only bringing funny stuff next time.
Yeah. So you have to have a list.
I'll wait till Kasey prints out her list. I'll be like, that's so weird. I had the same 3
Yeah.
things.
We didn't even get to half my list, so we can use it next time.
Definitely
There we
something to
go.
come back for.
Yeah.
I'm excited. We'll see if they're still, topical. Top of
Listeners.
mind.
Everyone unsubscribed after this.
After the trigger
We're
warning.
never doing this
Trigger
again.
warning. We're going to talk about trigger warnings. Should unsubscribe.
Yeah, if you're still listening, thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're the real MVP.
And hopefully you come back and do this with us again next week.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find the podcast on Instagram at former fat friend pod. I'm at maintaining Kasey on Instagram and TikTok.
I'm leaning into Lisa.
I'm at Allie's losing it _RNY.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Love you.
See ya.